Welcome everybody. All right, today we're talking about people that are smart but also stupid. Now I know stupid is a terrible word, but I always think of it as a diagnosis that there's no medication for. But there's a lot of stupid in this world. But what I'm referring to in this particular episode is no common sense. There are lots of people in this world that are highly intelligent. And believe me, I live in Seattle, Washington. It's filled with very hyper intelligent people. But oftentimes, and this is my theory, people have a lot of intelligence. And for some reason, on the other side of it, they lose their common sense. They have no common sense. And I don't know why that is. But if you look at the great major cities like New York and Washington, D.C., and a few, Boston and a few other places, Chicago, places where mental health thrives, Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, California. If you look at those places, mental health thrives in those cities. Why? Because they're filled with people with high intelligence and low common sense. Smart people are very egotistical in many ways. What they love to do is they have hypotheses about the way the government should operate, the way people should live, the way schools should operate, the way a job should, the way their boss should do, what their kids should be doing, what their schools should be doing, what everybody should be doing, what the traffic should be doing. They have all these wonderful hypothetical theories about the way things should go in the world, and they live in their theories as if they're correct, even though they're untested. They love their theories. Smart people live in theories. They live in hypotheses. And so they think they are correct because they're so egotistical and love to think of themselves as the God of the universe that they can't help themselves because they're super intelligent and they know their intelligence is usually above everybody else's, that they know better and you don't. And so they don't really value what common sense is. And common sense refers to what people actually function, how they actually live, what they can actually do and not do. People understand what I can do and what I can't do. And that is common sense. That's limitations. But people that are hyper intelligent believe they have no limitations. And so they have no common sense because they believe their answers are the answers. And so what they'll do is they'll jump on Google or they'll jump on the internet and they will try to prove their hypothesis to be correct. What they don't tell you is they search for what's called bias research to reinforce their hypothesis. They don't care if 99% of the evidence is going against their hypothesis. What they have to do is they have to believe their own bullshit. And when they do that, because we live in a narcissistic world, wanting to build an economy where everybody in the world thinks the same and has the same values, which is never going to happen, but that's what smart people think should happen. That's why we have psychotic people keying Teslas. So the bottom line is smart people are amazing in many regards and they're retarded in other regards. And so what we have to understand is the limitations of smart people is many of them lack common sense. Now, if you can find people in the middle where they're hyper intelligent and they have common sense, that's rare to find, but there are people in this world that are like that. And those people are highly valuable people because they have a balance where they can offer many, many ideas, but they don't believe that they're always right. And they actually are Socratic, meaning they care about what other people think. And they look at what other people think that are critical of their thoughts. And they look at all views. And then they come to conclusions, and that's called wisdom. Unfortunately, smart people don't always have wisdom because smart people like to think, I'm the smartest thing on the planet. I know better than everybody, and you should all just do what the hell I think you should do. And many of those people run for mayor, run for governor, run for all kinds of offices, and destroy our economy and destroy the human race in general because they have to prove their own hypothesis, and everybody is their experimental thing. And our lovely government allows for that. And that's why we have a lot of waste, because we have a lot of idiots running our world who are smart with no common sense. So there's advantages to being smart. People who do well on standardized tests of intelligence, IQ tests, tend to be more successful in the classroom, gaining knowledge, and sometimes in the workplace. Although the reasons are not fully understood, they also tend to live longer, healthier lives, are less likely to experience negative life events like bankruptcy. However, there's some bad news for people in the IQ bell curve of intelligence. And that is, especially if you look at like Mensa, which is a high IQ society, it's the top 2% of our population. It requires that its members have an IQ in that top 2%. And for most intelligence tests, these people have about 132 IQ or higher. And the average population is 100 IQ. So Mensa's highly intelligent members find that they're more likely to suffer from a range of serious mental disorders because they love expectations. And if you want to be depressed, the best way to be depressed is to live in expectations. I expect you to do things the way I want you to do. I expect you to do what's right. I expect you to do your homework. I expect you to be a good employee. I expect you to run the business. I expect you to do what you said you were going to do. I expect you not to betray me. But you see, every time people don't meet your expectations, it goes to a very negative place. Betrayal, failure. These are huge problems, and that's why we have a psychotic society where everybody's protesting and don't even know why they're protesting, because everything is perceived as a betrayal or a failure. And people love to live in that because they're stupid. And they love to live in their anger, and justifiable anger is, oh, there's feels nothing better than that, especially old people who have no other reason to live but to be angry, or stupid people who live at home with their parents because they have no common sense or responsibility to be able to walk out the door, have a family, have a life, have a job, and actually show up and do what they say they're going to do. They'd rather protest and torture your Tesla. So, there's a survey covering mood disorders, depression, dysthymia. Dysthymia is like Eeyore, or bipolar, which is, up and down like a yo-yo, anxiety disorders, generalized, social, obsessive compulsive, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which is a childhood diagnosis that a lot of people as adults like to call their diagnosis. Even though it's a childhood diagnosis, they like to call themselves ADHD. Well, you grow out of ADHD, but unfortunately, ADHD adults have excuses and they hide behind that diagnosis as if it's real for their adult life. Well, it's real in many ways. They're impulsive. They do things. They can't concentrate. But there's a lot of that is the fact that that's how they've coped with their life and that's how their brain is formed. It's not the ADHD. It's the muscle that they have developed in their brain that they won't undo because they're lazy asses. So nearly 75% compared to of people that have high intelligence also have great disappointments, and that is with the world, with society in general. Now that's knowledge. We think that if we have a lot of knowledge, we are smart. No, wisdom is intelligence. And that is not on an IQ scale. Wisdom means I know how to take knowledge and apply it to human beings. You see, there's a lot of people, and especially with the discovery of autism as a spectrum diagnosis, meaning many people are different degrees of autism. Many people that are autistic are self-centered. They love themselves and they don't care about what anybody else thinks. Now, they know they're supposed to care, but they don't really care. They just care about doing what they're supposed to do so people will be happy, but they don't know why they're doing it because they have no emotional capacity for empathy. And there's lots of people in this world. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of them that you'll see at these protests that go, oh, I'd rather this person be dead. I'd rather everybody be dead that thinks this way. All these people should die. That's the society we live in today, is people do not care about other people dying. They don't even care about other people. And we're getting so dissociative towards the human beings and lacking empathy for each other that we're eventually going to go to war, kill each other, maybe nuke each other, and that'll be the end of everything. But explaining our feelings, if you think about smart people will die on their own sword, meaning that they'd rather kill you than be wrong. So we live in a society with nuclear weapons. It's very dangerous, where people think that the other human beings are a waste of time if they don't agree with them. Middle East is filled with that. Now you give them more nuclear weapons, and we're going to be all pretty much cooked. But the bottom line is that we as people have to understand that high intelligence people are great when you use them as a resource of knowledge, but not all of them are great leaders. They don't put it all together. And so we have to be really careful with highly intelligent people. They are a tool rather than a leader. Some people think that if I hire really super high intelligent people, they're going to come with common sense. No, you have to have people with experience and high intelligence to be in leadership positions. That's important because they have to consider the human factor. We have to understand that a dazzling intellect may be both blessing and a curse. And as a link between high intelligence and mental health disorders continues to perplex researchers and challenge social norms, the notion that genius and madness are two sides of the same coin. And that's captured imagination for years. But from the eccentric behaviors of brilliant people to troubled minds of groundbreaking scientists to the connection between exceptional cognitive abilities and mental health struggles, it's been a fascination for throughout all of human history. But what we need to understand and talk about with high intelligence is being able to manage it, because high intelligent people have to be managed because they lack the capacity many times to understand how human beings operate and what human beings need. Human beings are emotional. So if you really, really think about it, if some traumatic event were to happen, a rape, God forbid, or something horrible were to happen, what people remember about that event is how they felt. They remember how they felt, and they remember the traumatic event based on how they felt. So all of the details is going to be justifying how they felt. That's how people operate. Now, highly intelligent people will tell you what the facts were. No, it happened this way, and this is the way it happened, and that's the way it happened, and that's the way and they'll remember every detail, and they'll tell you you're not important. You do not know what the hell you're talking about because you remember the event based on how you felt. And what that does is that tells the other person that's receiving that, since they remember the event by how they felt, that they're all wrong. You can't do that to human beings. It's stupid. That's why highly intelligent people that are analytical, that think they have all the facts, think they have all the answers, are dumbasses because they're stupid. They think that if they will repeat back exactly what happened and the way it happened unemotionally, that you're supposed to just go, oh, yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah, cool. No, people are emotional too. And that's how they remember things. And that's why people have what are called perceptions of truth. We all live in perceptions of truth, including autistic people who think they know everything, because the deal is that you live in your own vacuum and you do have emotions and you do remember and think of things through your own emotions, even though you may be more analytical. So what do we mean by high intelligence? How does it intersect with the complex landscape of mental health disorders? Well, mental health disorders are the filter in which people filter their lives, and that is through their emotions. It's called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence comes with intellectual intelligence, IQ. Well, and what we have to understand is the intellect and the emotion come together for human beings. So if you're going to have a leader, you don't want them to be super high intelligence and low common sense, low emotional intelligence. They need to have the balance of both. That's a huge, important thing. Now, if you have mad geniuses, which has been a reoccurring theme through literature, art, and popular culture, from Vincent van Gogh's tumultuous life where he cut off his ear for a woman, the brilliant but troubled mind of, the movie about the schizophrenic John Nash, is often romanticized notion that exceptional intellect comes with a price. Well, it can, because some people don't can't transition from high IQ to high EQ. Now, if they did both and put them together, Now you've got somebody that's going to make a real impact on the human race. Now, I will tell you what's really important to understand is in his early life, Albert Einstein was highly intelligent and focused a lot on intelligence. But in his later life, if you actually read quotes from Albert Einstein, you will notice that he actually started to embrace emotional intelligence and added that to his high intellect. And that is what made him a humanly great person. Recent studies have attempted to shed light on intelligence and mental illness connection, and as the results are, well, perplexing, some research suggests that people with high IQs may be more prone to certain mental health disorders. That is because their expectations. Now, the average human being, if they don't want to be depressed, because people that are depressed, that's why mental high intelligence often are depressed people or anxious people, is because they live in expectations. Now, if you replace that with a preference, I prefer, now you're factoring in other human beings. Now, high intellect people, that just can't be in the cards because they have to be right about everything. And so they live in expectations, and everybody does not meet their expectations. So the world is a terrible place for high intellect people because nobody fits in their hypothesis, but they're going to make you fit because they know if I become the mayor, I'm going to stuff my crap straight down your throat. All right, so we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back. Welcome back, everybody. All right, we're talking about people that are very smart, high intelligence, but stupid, low common sense. So that's kind of a rude title. Once again, I believe stupid should be a diagnosis. It's a personality disorder. It cannot be medicated. People are just stupid. There are many stupid people that have no emotional intelligence. And that's the way it is. We as human beings have a lot of stupid people we coexist with on this planet. And some of them are super smart and highly functional, but they do not find their place in the world because they are so smart that they think that they know everything. Therefore, they can't work for people. They can't respect people. They can't function in a team. They can't function in a group because they think they know everything and nobody ever meets their standards. So they'd rather live in mom and dad's basement and live off of their retirement until they croak off, and maybe they'll go get a job as a, postman or something. So, bottom line is we have a lot of high intellect people in this world that never have any emotional intelligence because they don't balance themselves out. Therefore, they have mental health issues. People that live in their own hypothesis are always going to have mental health issues because they expect the world to meet their standards and to agree with them. The world is not going to agree with them because we are humans with emotions, and emotions are not logical, and they don't fit your hypothesis, and they don't equate with what is going to be analytically correct because they're going to have to be morally correct. So you not only have to be analytically correct, which IQ people want to be analytically correct, but you have to be morally correct, which means you have values and consider other people's feelings and how they take things in. And the truth is you have to understand what a majority thinks, not every single person, because there's a lot of psychotic people in this world, as we've witnessed in this day and age. When it comes to mental health challenges faced by highly intelligent intellectuals, anxiety disorders often take center stage. It's as if their brilliant minds are constantly running a marathon, analyzing every possible outcome. That's because highly intelligent people often see themselves as an outsider. Now, they presume everybody sees them as an outsider. However, the truth is, they see the rest of the world as outsiders, and they are inside the circle, and they think that everybody is just too stupid to understand. Highly intellectual people, highly intelligent people also have arrogance because they know they're different. They know most people don't understand their analytical ways and the fact that they see analytical results, and you don't have to go through all these temper tantrums and emotional crap. But the truth is, as human beings, we have to understand feelings and understand what is right or understand good solutions. That is how we have wisdom. That is life. And that's important. However, people with high intellects love to have their own thoughts and philosophies and ways of life, and they are only going to look for other people that agree with them, unless they like debating, but they always will have to be right if they debate. And so it's sad, but they live in their own little funnel. And that destroys their IQ because nobody wants to hear their crap because they don't have any wisdom. They just have high IQ. And then they look to others to innovate their high IQ solutions because others will take that and apply that to the human race, and they will make millions and millions of dollars applying common sense to their intellectual solutions. Highly intellectual people oftentimes are not the millionaires and billionaires of the world. It's the millionaires and the billionaires of the world that find highly intelligent people and then innovate their solutions to make them accountable to the human race. And those people are somewhere in the middle. Bipolar disorder and creativity often go hand in hand. And by the way, it takes experiential learning to develop emotional intelligence. That means you're filled with lots of failure and you're okay with failure. Because you're operating in a preference, I prefer, which means that you will accept whatever outcome and work with that. That means you accept the world as it is. You accept the answers as they are. You accept the responses that you get and you work with that and evolve it. Obsessive compulsive disorder is also a big diagnosis in this world today. Obsessive compulsive people are very ritualistic and very set in their ways, and they do not like change. They want everything to be as they think it should be, and they have thousands of justifiable reasons to keep wiping the doorknob until the doorknob finally has to be replaced. They just absolutely obsess on what they think is the right outcome. And analytical people have that tendency to have obsessive compulsive features. They will obsess on their hypothesis and they will try to prove their hypothesis in every possible way with any evidence that they could find, no matter how remote and stupid it is, to justify their hypothesis. And they will live in that as if it's right. And then they obsess on making the whole world try to meet their needs. And so they obsess on their outcome and they try to demonstrate their outcome is the right way to be, even though it doesn't match the rest of the human race. So obsessive compulsive people develop analytical solutions and they live in their analytical solutions and they analytically solve their solutions by analytical actions. And then they obsess on those things as if they're right. And then they try to make everybody else fit into that world. Being highly intelligent comes from its own unique set of challenges. If you ever heard of overexcitabilities, it's like having your senses dialed up to 11 all the time, and it sounds overwhelming, and I bet you it is. And these intensified experiences can be both a source of joy and constant struggle for gifted individuals. Perfectionism is another thing. If you ever hear someone say, I'm a perfectionist, if they are a perfectionist, they are psychotic. People that are perfectionists can never be gratified. People that are perfectionists are control freaks. And if you look at the diagnostic manual for mental health, number 5, what you're going to discover is that every Axis 1 man-made diagnosis, depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and generalized anxiety, and all those wonderful diagnoses that men and women love to come up with, and transvestites, what we end up finding is that all of the symptoms correlate back to, oh, Depression is how you try to control things you cannot control. So you just lay on your ass in bed so everybody will cater to your ugly ass because you're depressed and that's how you're trying to control everybody in your life. They have to bow down to your emotional debilitation because you have invented a solution that is how you're going to control your world, and you're going to make your kids and you're going to groom your kids to kiss your ugly ass, and all your depression and anxiety, which is fear. People choosing to live in fear is anxiety. So those people, that's how they control the world. They groom everybody to know that they live in fear, so you have to live in fear. You have to conclude 5,000 results that are going to be bad, and then you have to prepare for all those 5,000 results. And I'm going to make everybody in my life experience my anxiety. That's a control freak. All Axis 1 diagnoses come back to the square root of the need to control things you cannot control, and this is how you make the world cater to your ugly ass. And that is what people do. Axis 1 diagnoses are built on that, and highly intelligent people love Axis 1 diagnoses. So perfectionism is the ultimate red flag that you've got somebody who's got a major mental health issue. And God forbid they ever go to a therapist because they have to be right. So any therapist that actually opposes their point of view is going to be in the wrong and probably reported to the Board of Behavioral Sciences or something for opposing their hypothesis of the world. So, it's really hard to do therapy with people that think they're right about everything. But that mental health problem is a huge issue. It's a huge issue in this world. So we have to understand that getting through and navigating through this life, you want to find people that are not toxic. And that is, you want to find people that are smart, and you want to find people that are emotionally intelligent, or you want to find just smart people and use them as a tool and then innovate their solutions into something that other human beings can use because they're too stupid to do that, because they have to be right. And they think that I invented this thing to do just this thing. It's not supposed to do 5,000 other things. It's supposed to be what I invented it to be. And that's how highly intellectual people do. They are very problem solution focused people, which is great. It's wonderful because it helps us innovate. It helps us grow as human beings. But what it also does is it has a very limiting perspective because human beings are very complex and emotional. And highly intellectual people think emotions get in the way of everything. And then they go breed and have children and treat them like crap. So social isolation is a common theme among highly intelligent. When you're operating on a different wavelength than most other people, finding genuine connections can be very challenging. It's kind of like a needle in the haystack. You're going to have to find another narcissistic, highly intelligent person. And if you can do that and you both care about spending enough time with each other, you're both going to tell each other how wrong you are and eventually reject each other. These people are loners. Highly intellectual people are loners because they can't stand to be wrong. Now, if they go into the other part of their life where they try to understand that everybody's more right than they are wrong, everybody's more good than they are bad, and everybody has a contribution, even somebody who's never been to school in their life has contributions and they have things to offer. And if you're smart enough and wise enough, you will listen to them and understand that they have something to offer you. But that takes emotional intelligence and that takes empathy. Many of the high intellectual people lack that because of their egos, because they are set above everybody else, because they come up to conclusions, because school is easy for them and it's hard for everybody else. And they can see that and they know that, which is a great gift. It's a great gift. But rarely are those highly intelligent people going to be the great leaders of the world because they don't focus on emotional intelligence also. But they breed, they get married, they do all those things, and then they are a wrecking ball through everybody else's life that they bring into their life because they don't have any regard for the human being. If they can find it in themselves to go, yes, I am smart, but I also have to be emotionally intelligent, now you've got the components of a great leader and a great human being. Why is specialized assessment for gifted people so critical? It's not a one size fits all situation. We need mental health professionals who can navigate the terrain between highly intelligent people and emotional intelligent people. It's very important if you're an employer and you're looking for highly skilled, highly intellectual people to test both ends of the spectrum, because you may hire a very good programmer who's really good at a lot of things, but they can't stand people and they love to just do what they do. And that's great. But you don't want to create them as a leader and put them in front of people and make them have to do empathy, because they don't want to do that. They want people that support their analytical theories. And so if you're going to have highly intelligent people who could care less about human beings, that's great, but they're just a tool. They're a means to an end. And you have to understand that highly intellectual people have to be understood. Are you somebody who has human components of emotional intelligence, or are you just a tool that we hire as a business that you can get this job done, and you will do it the way we need you to do it? That's the most important part, is understanding what you're getting. So if you're an employer, you want to test both sides of it. Emotionally intelligent people have a better tendency to understand that I don't have all the answers. I am still learning. I am still listening. I am adapting. I'm always adapting, and I adapt through failure. And failure is an opportunity to learn, and I look forward to learning and evolving. Cognitive behavioral theory is mindfulness practices. It basically understands that I have thoughts and I have behaviors that come from my thoughts. And what cognitive behavioral therapy is about, putting emotional intelligence to your intellect, creating solutions, creating a life where you go, hey, if I'm positive with my child instead of telling them how stupid they are, I'm probably going to get more out of my child. If I'm telling them what they're capable of, or what great thing they did in this one part of the problem that they solved, rather than focusing on all of their failures, I'm probably going to get more out of the child. That's called cognitive behavioral intelligence. That is a very important part of life, is focusing on building knowledge and encouraging people, because part of all of our motivations in this world come from our emotions. Now, people that are autistic have the desire to be right, and so they love to find solutions by being right, or being the best, or being or demonstrating how super intelligent they are. So they get off on that. But what they really get off on is the emotional feeling that they're better than everybody else. We have to understand what motivations are. Motivations come from emotions. Now, ultimately, they come from your will to live. Now, many people don't have a will to live. If you drop them in a jungle, they'll probably be dead within 3 days, because they don't have the will to live. People that have the will to live are usually a huge, wonderful combination between intelligence and emotional intelligence, which is wonderful. If you can get people with the will to live, they will find knowledge, find solutions, find a way to survive, which takes emotional intelligence and it takes intellectual intelligence. People with the will to live will help each other out better than any people on the planet. It's these people that have no will to live, that have to be right, that have to be the perfectionists, that have to control everything. They have no will to live because they're so wanting to be right that they don't care if they die or other people die. They don't care what the outcome is. They just have to be right. And that's the sad part of our human race. And we've always struggled with that as human beings. But now that we live in a real narcissistic world, where the narcissists took over our government and groomed the shit out of everybody to believe that they're right, and all of us are kind of thinking, I thought you were right, but I think I'm understanding you weren't right. Now we're getting into that, where we're actually seeing the light of day of sanity. But since they took over our government and destroyed our human race for 4 years, if not 15 years, that the bottom line is that we have to come out of the clouds and understand we need a balance between emotional intelligence and intellect. To delve deeper into the world of high intelligence and mental health, we encounter a whole lot of phenomena that challenge our understanding of the human mind. An intriguing concept is exploring the latent inhibition with high IQ, exploring cognitive phenomenon. This is a unique combination of traits that can lead to both exceptionally creative and increased vulnerability to mental health challenges. Because people that are creative put themselves out there. And oftentimes the best creativity comes from the recognition of our humanity. And it's a celebration of our humanity. And it's a celebration of the colors and the shapes and the forms of this world. And it's a celebration of how we relate to all those things. That's where creativity it comes into its peak, when it relates to the emotional intelligence of human beings and the intellect of the human beings. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about smart but stupid, which is people with high IQ but low common sense. It's important to note that this correlation doesn't imply a cause, but high IQ doesn't necessarily cause mental illness, nor does mental illness indicate high intelligence. The relationship is far more nuanced in its concept. And it's got a lot of genetic, environmental, and social factors that create that. But the term hyperintelligence disorder is starting to emerge in this world. And it sparks debate among a lot of mental health professionals and researchers. And that condition, hyperintelligence disorder, suggests that extremely high levels of intelligence can itself be a form of neurodevelopmental disorder. And there's a lot of people that argue that there are symptoms of people, typically above 160 IQ, that may experience a unique set of challenges that significantly impact their daily functioning. They may have difficulty relating to peers. They may have intentional emotional insensitivity or sensitivity, overwhelming existential thoughts. Why do I exist? What is the meaning of life? There is no meaning. They often don't believe in God because they think they are God. They have chronic boredom and restlessness, perfectionism to the point of paralysis. And that comes with a hyper intelligence disorder. And it's very controversial. Many experts argue that the challenges, while real, don't necessarily constitute a disorder themselves. Instead, it may be better understood, but the side effects of extreme giftedness can be managed with appropriate support and coping strategies. So hopefully, people that have these disorders, these symptoms of extreme difficulty relating to peers, intense emotional sensitivity, overwhelming existential thoughts, chronic boredom, restlessness, perfectionism, to paralysis, these people need help. They need help. While not all highly intelligent people experience mental health issues, some face unique challenges. And these high IQ problems can manifest in various ways. And if you think about it, they objectify almost everything. Highly intelligent people can objectify almost anything. Oh, yes. Okay. So this person is behaving badly. And so there is no justifiable reason. I think they're just stupid. I just think they're this. I think they're that. You can objectify people all day long, but highly intelligent people don't care about the emotional quotient. They don't care about people's feelings and how they care, what meaning is to you. Now, if you think about it, when people argue, the reason that they argue, just the basis for why people argue, highly intelligent people cannot stand. Okay, so let's take, for example, one person thinks that, okay, if I do a job this way, it's going, if I work really hard, I'm going to get a better result. The other person may say, well, if I work really smart, I may get a better result. So the meaning is I have to work hard, and the other one is the meaning is I have to work smart. Okay, both will come to a conclusion. We don't know what that conclusion will be, but the meaning is very different for two different people. Intellectual people don't understand meaning at all. They don't care about meaning. And that is why they don't like to debate. They think they're right about everything because they don't like to debate. They like their conclusions. The problem is all arguments are based on meaning. So we want to go on vacation. One person wants to lay on the beach. The other person wants to go see the sights. Okay, the meaning of a vacation is different from one person to the other. A highly intellectual person is going to go, if I go on vacation, I want to do intellectual things. Okay, so that's the way it's going to be. So that's their meaning, and they could care less about anybody else's meaning. Now, people with an emotional IQ are going to go, okay, you think vacation is resting, and I think vacation is going to see the sights. Okay, let's do both. Now we find a way in the middle. That's how people settle arguments, is they discuss meaning, which is very human, but it's not very intellectual. Now, the thing about depression and existential crisis are another potential pitfall. Highly intelligent people grapple with deep philosophical questions from a young age, leading to feelings of alienation and despair. For instance, if you're an atheist, you are more worried about what makes this world, this universe operate. You're not worried about why the universe operates. You're worried about what makes the universe operate. And if I have all the what answers, all the logical conclusions, I have all the answers. Therefore, I'm an atheist and I don't care about God. Now, if you care about God, what you care about is the why we have a universe. Now, that's a whole different struggle that most intellects don't want to deal with. And so many atheist type of people are highly intellectual people that worry about the what and the science and all that stuff, but they don't care about the whys. And that is a very difficult argument for them to put their head around. As a matter of fact, if people have emotional intelligence and not a lot of intellectual intelligence, they will put those people down because, oh, you believe in a God? You think God did all this? Look at this. Here's the numbers. Here's how it happened. Blah, 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 blah. See, they want to go to their intellect as if it has all the answers. And it's really sad because it doesn't understand the spiritual condition of the human race. So highly intellectual people have a hard time correlating existence with other humans. Social isolation is a frequent complaint among those with people with high IQs. They don't like conflict, and they don't want to argue about their points, and they don't want to share their intellect with a whole lot of people. What they want is to demonstrate that they are right. Like-minded peoples can be challenging, leading to feelings of loneliness and disconnection. So, people love to surround themselves with people that agree with them. And if you surround yourself with people that agree with you, you're not going to expand your knowledge. You want to have people who disagree with you because they will offer a different perspective, and different perspectives contribute to better outcomes than people that agree with you. Isolation can be exacerbating, but the problem is highly intellectual people feel they lose a lot of arguments because they don't have emotional intelligence. And so they often feel disconnected from the human race because their intellect is looked at as a liability, that you don't care about people. Well, they do care. They just don't put their energy into caring. And so the deal is they need a balance and a counterbalance. And that's what we all need as human beings, is balance and counterbalance. If you're going to go towards all your strength, which is highly intellectual intelligence, and never go towards your emotional intelligence, you're going to be out of balance. You're going to be an outsider. You're going to be alone, and you're probably not going to be the most effective human being, but you're probably going to have some really good ideas that need to be expounded, and they need to be experimented, and they need to fail, and they need to be evolved, and they need to turn into something that human beings can use. And that's why our wisest societies, the Romans, the Japanese, the Chinese, innovate. They innovate what intellects create because the intellects are too stupid to innovate. They invent and create unique solutions, and then innovators take those solutions and apply them across the board to all kinds of different opportunities. That is because emotional intelligence and wisdom is combined with high intellect. High intellect people are tools, and that's all they are. They're tools. And that's unfortunate because if you're going to make your whole life about being a tool, you're going to miss out on the why of existing as a human being and what it takes to understand that when you die, what's going to be remembered is how you emotionally connected with other people, what kind of person you were, what kind of memories were made with you, and the emotional connections that you had with other people. That is what creates your legacy. One aspect of high intelligence often goes hand in hand with mental health challenges. Hypersensitivity is frequently intertwined with highly intelligent intellectuals. So you're going to find them out there doing stupid things like keying Teslas and burning down Tesla buildings and protesting the government and going to Columbia University and standing up for the Palestinians who murdered all these people in Hamas in Israel. I mean, you're going to find highly intelligent people do some really stupid stuff. Stupid stuff. So they have emotional intensity. They feel emotions more deeply for longer periods because they love to be right, and they're going to shove their right straight down your throat no matter what it takes. They have sensory processing sensitivities because they're easily overwhelmed by lights and sounds and textures. They have cognitive sensitivity, pick up on subtle details, nuances that others might miss. Social sensitivities, being acutely aware of politics and dynamics and what someone says and how they say it. They love to find anything to justify their emotional sensitivity because they want to be right about everything in the world. Highly intelligent people want to justify their intelligence. That's what they do. They can't help themselves. They love hypothesis. They love their own crap. They love to smell their own crap. And they want the rest of the world to smell their own crap. They also have, difficulty finding intellectual equals because they're always trying to find why they are smarter than others. And if they find other people who are equal in intelligence to their intelligence, they either respect it, but oftentimes they reject it. And that is the problem because they don't like people that have different hypotheses than theirs. Now, people that actually add emotional intelligence become Socratic. They care about hearing what other people think because they want to evolve their theories and hypothesis into something that is more effective and a better solution. They become easily bored in relationships, highly intelligent people. They struggle with emotional intimacy due to overthinking. And they deal with people who feel intimidated by their intelligence. So they love people that have high intelligence, love to marry people with high emotional intelligence because they feel like it's a yin and a yang. And that's great, and that can be sexy, and that can be dynamic and a great formula. But when you get it going all the way through life, they generally are going to be at war with each other because neither understand each other. Emotional challenges lead to feelings of loneliness and isolation, even within relationships. Open communication, mutual understanding, willingness to embrace our differences is what is needed to coexist with a highly intelligent person. That means I know you have your hypothesis. I know you have a lot of things that you have to be right about. I know you've got all this stuff, but if we're going to coexist, you're going to have to understand that I have different meanings than you do, and you're going to have to make room for that. I'm not going to be groomed into your high intelligence world. You're going to have to also make room for emotional intelligence world. So if a baby's crying, you don't go, I'll deal with it when I feel like it. You learn why they're crying, how they're crying, what's going on, and you comfort them so they have an attachment to the world. Some studies suggest that individuals with high IQs may be slightly increased of developing other disorders like schizophrenia. The relationship is not straightforward. There is not real links at this point until we really look at how the genes are created. And there is a DNA site now that can break down the top 100 DNA genes and actually tell you why you have a lot of the things you have in your life. The relationship between autism and high IQ is also complex. Autism spectrum disorder is often associated with cognitive challenges. People with autism also demonstrate high intelligence many times. Not all of them do. Sometimes as twice as exceptional. Many excel at certain cognitive demands while struggling with social interaction and communication. And that's understandable. People with autism often have a gate that prevents them from getting into emotional intelligence. And if you don't embrace that and you happen to be married to somebody who has autism and you found out after you're married to them that they're autistic, you're going to have to understand that there's going to have to be some sense of coping and some sense of acceptance of their limits. Intellectual stimulation and challenge is something that people with high IQs are always seeking. They love coping with life. They hate living life. They love intellectual challenges because they live in their heads. People with high IQs don't care too much about delivery methods. What they care more about is what they're learning. So they can spend their whole life going to college and they can get off on that. But if you take them and go, okay, now you're going to have to apply your knowledge and actually do something with it, they can't stand that. So a lot of people that have high IQs don't have the ability to apply. So what they'll do is they'll get into a leadership position and they'll determine that the rest of the world is going to have to cater to their hypothesis of living. So a lot of these high IQ people look up to, and they think they have great answers and are great people, when in fact they do have great insights. Yes, they have great analysis, but they love to be leaders who tell people what to do, and they're vastly wrong because they don't understand how it applies to the human race. And so you have cities that exist with high IQ people with low EQ. And that unfortunately creates disparities in your police and your fire and all kinds of different things that people need to exist because their theories are what they live in and their hypothesis is what they live in. And then they surround the people with people that agree with them that are just as psychotic as they are. So there's specialized therapy approaches that can help people. There's dialectic behavioral therapy, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. These can help address people who want to take their emotional and high intellect intelligence and blend them together. It can be worked with, but a high intelligence person that is not autistic has a chance, but they have to take on the idea of an EQ as important as an IQ. That's our show. I want to thank everybody for listening. I love hearing from you. You can do that on our webpage at voiceamerica.com, the empowerment and the health and wellness channels, Dr. Gary Bell's Absurd Psychology. Remember, AI is no match for natural stupidity. Also, intellectual people are full of doubts and the stupid ones are full of confidence. Also, family suites are becoming the rage of mental hospitals. Also, smart people find a way to justify their mentally unhealthy choices. Thanks for listening.